Andrew, this is one of the things that I want to get into with mold is people assume that mold is always just a negative. There's a positive side to mold, and that actually connects you in to different dimensions. So you want some mold, which is why we'll eat fermented foods. On the other hand, there's some negative molds that you don't want to get into, and those actually change your personality and can actually make one become very dark, very evil, very non-functional, very destructive. Murderers, for example. That's the bad side of mold, but some mold is very good. Yeah, you see, that's the good mold. So now what actually happens is you've got, where mold starts is mold. The whole function of mold is to break down things, to break it down to its raw or base form. In nature, anything that decomposes leaves, branches, twigs, anything that decomposes it, that is there's dealing with astrology like I do. 7 is the magic number. You're going to realize that you've got 7 different types of mold. And of the first one, that's the one that breaks everything down. So that mold allows a different, getting to Tesla, that mold allows one to start accessing another dimension. I'm not saying Tesla used that, he used one higher up, or used some higher up. Then you get another mold that will actually, once that's broken down, it goes into trees, it goes into the roots of plants. Now that mold connects with so many things. And that is part of the mold or the network into which Tesla connected. So it's an actual functional, interdimensional connection into other worlds. And it's done through plants.
That's really interesting because I've seen the pictures of them insects where they get mold on the brain and it takes over the brain. And it eventually comes out, starts sprouting out of the skull, doesn't it? Like a fungi.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that they control you, Andrew. It's that you've now got access. You've got a pass into that other world. So a gate pass, a free pass into the other world. And those worlds have got, they operate on different frequencies, different vibrations, different, it is a different dimension. It's a different world. It's a different access into knowledge. It's a different access into information. Mo, I can't think what his surname is, Mo, the guy from Gnostic Warrior, his latest article is one of the best articles people can read if they want to understand what or how we access that other stuff or what that stuff accesses. So he's got brilliant stuff. If people want to read on mold and understand it, go and have a look at Gnostic Warrior, Gnostic Warrior, and have a look what he puts out. It's fabulous stuff, Andrew. It really is fabulous. And that is what Tesla was using to access other dimensions. When you look at Mo's website, he talks of mold on that level as being the oldest species on the planet. Now, when you talk of old species, and in actual fact goes back to God, when you go back to the oldest species, you've got access to all information, the oldest information. There's nothing new. The Bible has said there's nothing new under the sun. This is part of that entire network, entire infrastructure, entire world. So it takes you into what we call a higher dimension. It takes you into a much bigger world. It takes you into the Einstein-Rosen bridge, where you will transport from Earth through a wormhole into another planet, plane, whatever you want to talk about it. That is what that mold does. It allows us access through them into another world. So as you say, it is an antenna. It's a link that you've got into another world.
Do you ingest it by eating mold, or do you breathe it in? Is that how it takes control? Or is there some mold that doesn't take control? Is there certain molds that do take control, or you got to be careful of? Is there ways the government are using this to control us?
The 7 levels of mold, I've explained the first 2, which is the mold which breaks down all matter, or it decomposes things, compost. Then you got the next level where once that goes into the ground and it accesses the roots, what we call the mycelium. Those roots have got an antenna system as you talk, that you can access other worlds, other information, other places. It's a two-way street. In turn, that mold also needs something from its host. So it doesn't rob its host, but it feeds the host, and in turn, it exchanges something with you. So, but that's how it does it with trees. Then we'll get to the next level where what you talk about, can we ferment, or what type of mold? You get fermented foods. Now, fermented foods is really one of the best foods people can look into for health, which is what you were talking about, probiotics. Once you do that, you've got yet another level of mold again. So that's a different type of mold that gives you access to different worlds, different information. Then you'll have a mold, mushrooms. Mushrooms are considered another mold and another world, entirely separate species, the whole toot. They give you yet another type of mold, access to another dimension, access to different information.
Well, that's, yeah, like you say, obviously the magic mushrooms and all that sort of thing, but I never thought of it as mold, which it is mold, isn't it? And would you say parasites are related to mold?
Yes, they are related to mold. That's yet another type of mold. Now, that type of mold, what happens is the insect will ingest something, and then it will bite you. For example, a mosquito, a snake, whatever. This is why people hallucinate when they get bitten by scorpions, they get bitten by snakes. Certain insects can make us sick. What actually happens is part of that, either their sting or their venom, or just something that they deposit into us when they bite us, goes into us. There's different levels here. Those insects will then leave other matter in our body, which are microscopic. And those are other creatures that are actually left in our body. What happens is, talking on the parasites, when these creatures, through the insect bite, when those creatures in your blood, in your body, wherever, leave byproducts called stool, urine, whatever, when they leave byproducts behind, those start polluting our body. That starts causing us to go insane, makes us sick. So those are the parasites you're talking about. So that comes through insects that bite us, who deposit other microbes into us, other fungus, other germs, whatever you want to talk about it. And they have byproducts or after effects. That is yet another type of mold that will give you access into other dimensions. This is why people are sick and they go delirious, or they go into some sort of delirium. This is why they can see strange things. Well, they're accessing another world. It's a direct link into another world. So you really want to choose the mold that you want to ingest. So mushrooms is one type of mold, and not just magic mushrooms, all mushrooms. Mushrooms live on compost, which means they access another, and they're different from the first one, which is through the roots. Compost, we want that compost, but mushrooms have got a special or another, they wired in a different way to access another world. But when you make fermented products with honey, same as sugar, but you're getting a different result. But let's stick with honey. When you ferment certain foods with honey, you are creating a fermented product. Again, the fermentation or mold has access into other places. Why do the Egyptians, when they claim they were buried, why they have honey in those tombs? So yeah, you just start connecting the dots and you start realizing, but wait a minute, there's more to this. It's not just simple honey. And when you look at the properties that are in honey, when you look at what's actually in honey, you realize that it's got other properties that serve other functions. So antiseptic, as you say, is one. It's antibacterial. It closes up wounds. I mean, it's not just for mental access. It's got its physical properties.
And they used to say it was the drink of the gods, didn't they, honey? Sort of. I know ergot comes from wheat, And that's the first LSD. What they used is ergot. Back in the peat bog days, they found peat bog men with ergot in the stomach.
Yeah, yeah. That is a fungus that you find on the outside of wheat. So it's interesting. Now look what happens. This is the same way thorns work. People have never looked at thorns. Thorns have got a very, very positive function in life. But let's just go back to the wheat and the barley, as you say. On the outside of barley, while it's growing, it is signals, is picking up information from other things, other places, animals that walk past it, stuff that's carried in the wind, and it's on the outside. So what you'll usually do is, if you want to ferment, like you say with mead, for example, if you want to ferment wheat, what you would do, the idea is not to wash the wheat or the barley, so that you can keep that fungus on the outside and use that as part of the fermentation process. So you'll find that slows down your fermentation process. If you're trying to make your own sourdough, for example, you want to keep that fungus on the outside. Now that's a very positive one relative to where it's been. I mean, if you're going to let's be careful here. If you're going to be using wheat that has been sprayed with pesticides combined with that fungus, that's not exactly going to be a positive outcome. So it's relative, but I'm just explaining the concept. It's on the outside of the wheat, it's not actually inside the wheat.
Right, okay. And Holger, the mold that you find in your house on the walls, or...
All right, that's part of what they call the sick building syndrome. The people who are in the last few years are not aware, or might not be aware of what the sick building syndrome is. That's to do with mold. They at first thought it was the fibers that were coming off carpets, but then they eventually figured out it was related to this mold that was growing inside buildings, and they would have to evacuate those buildings. They'd have to get them cleaned up. That is part of the dangerous mold. Now that's only the first level of mold. You get another one that's even worse than that. But yes, that's sick building syndrome. That is a mold, as you say, what you see growing in your house, that you want to keep. You want to keep that away from you, because that can actually drive you insane. You will actually, that's where people start hallucinating. You found people who actually live in these environments where you've got too much of this mold. It will actually take over your body, drive you insane, and actually eat you up. So let's deal with that aspect where you say, okay, so we've got this mold in the house. We've got to call these mold inspectors. They got to like quarantine the whole area, don their masks, put on their masks and their overalls in there, whatever have you, and sort out this mold. But as you say, it's got spores, Andrew. How are you going to keep a spore out? How are you going to ensure you've got every last spore? But they're doing their job. Now, this is where you start learning what many people call witchcraft. It's not witchcraft. What they were doing is the antidote to that mold in your house. A lot of people say, oh, it's very expensive. I've had a geyser that's burst. Water's leaked in the house. This mold has started. How do I get rid of it? It's very easy. Sage. You will burn sage. Sage is the natural antidote to those mold spores, to that mold. It kills it off. So this is where you start learning how nature has antidotes or combatants against mold out in the world.
Is this what incense sticks are for as well?
They're supposed to be, but no, they give more fragrance. That's just for the sweet smells. That's something different again.
Right.
That activates your olfactory system. Now, your olfactory system, or the nasal or the sense of smell, is activated through these various aromatherapies. And you've read in the Bible or these various places that those smells ascend to heaven. Well, what is that saying? That's a link. It's giving you a link. So the olfactory system is your sixth sense. People don't know this. They just assume, well, what's our sixth sense? Well, it's all five senses combined. It starts with the olfactory system. This is why aromatherapy is one of your most powerful natural medicines. It activates the olfactory system, which activates something in the brain, which activates you or gives you a pass or an opening into other worlds. It's through smell.
Obviously, say we've lived in a house of mold for 20 years and we're really badly sick.
Yeah.
Apart from painting the whole place and having it cleaned and all that, what could you do to clean yourself inside?
Definitely. There's a couple of things you can do. When you have this mold in the house, the first thing that you've got to realize, just backtracking a bit, the sage, when those old witches, those old women used to burn sage in the house, what were we often told why they burned sage? Obviously, you'll dry sage and you'll burn it. Why did they burn sage? It was usually to keep the spirits out, wasn't it?
Yeah. So is it effective nowadays? Is that in modern time? Is there any better way of doing it, or is sage still the best way?
Sage, go sage. It's a natural plant. It's been around forever, like hemp, like the different names that comes on. But you want to take in the smoke of sage. It's not just about the eating of the sage, because remember, you've dried the sage. If you want the benefit of plants, you want their oils, which is where we go back to aromatherapy. When you look at, because aromatherapy, the sap of the plant, the actual oils of the plant, that's what they call the essence, or the power of a plant is in its essence. So you want to get sage oils. Oregano oil is another very, very good one. So now you start realizing these herbs that we think are just spice for making the food taste nice. No, they serve more than just medicinal properties. They would actually keep us clean so we wouldn't get infected, affected, and we wouldn't go mad.
Is this something that's been forgotten, or did the modern doctors still teach this?
No. Andrew, the modern doctor wants to go the chemical route. Chemicals, because they want to try and simulate or emulate nature. So they want to do it in their own way, and they're basically playing God. It's very simple. Just go back to nature. And the irony is doctors, medicines all use nature as their start, and then they either copy it or they even have some natural medicines in their medicines. So it's nothing fancy or nothing strange. They're even using it. But then they want to patent it so that they can then say, all right, we can't use that. But you can't. How do you eradicate the planet of all herbs, all trees, all shrubbery? You can't. But they would like to dominate or control that area, which takes me to the other aspect of mold. So you've got your mold in buildings or mold in showers or what you see in the house. That's the one sort of mold. That's a bad mold. You've got a mold that's worse than that. You've got a mold that when somebody dies and that body is decomposing, as that body decomposes, it attracts, again, from what the environment picks up, it requires a specific type of mold to break it down. Now, that mold is your most dangerous mold. So this is why many religions do not touch dead bodies, because they give off a mold that will get into you and make you mad, where you are no longer human or what you classify as this body. You now become that mold. So there's a watershed mark as to, depending on how much mold of that dead body stuff you've got in you. Once it reaches a certain point, you no longer become human, and you actually now start becoming more that entity. Mad. Criminals, murderers, mass murderers, whatever have you, they are actually possessed, what we call possessed, because it's a spirit. Think about it. When you ferment alcohol, it's called spirit. Well, why? Because we fermented it through mold, and it's become spirit. So you've got certain drinks that are made out of spirit that actually have an enhancing or positive effect. You've got other mold, which will again turn something into its spirit because you can't see it, it's microscopic, and it drives you insane. It takes you over and you start becoming mad, like a dog with rabies, a rabid dog. It starts going crazy and it just kills and it can't think.
It's sort of like the zombie apocalypse, what you see, isn't it?
So think about it carefully. Where does the zombie apocalypse start? What are all the movies? How do they show them? The famous video
so it's in a
Jackson.
graveyard, isn't it? And you've got like the Pet Cemetery as well. That sort of film.
Can you see? We do not want to touch dead things. You become infected. Now, what happens with those is you think, oh, well, the person's dead and they're buried in the ground. So you think, okay, no problem, they're underground. No, that type of mold, while you've got the mold in your house that will have spores and it becomes airborne, floats in the air, this type of mold from graves and dead things, bodies, animal bodies, dead animal bodies, that mold creeps. It actually walks, it creeps. And what happens is it crawls through the ground, and we will go and often visit the grave site, and we will put some flowers, and we'll kiss the grave, and we'll do all this weird, far out shit. And then what happens is those slowly climb onto us. That's tickets, my friend. That's the start of you are now a zombie. You have got the start, you have been infected, you are now on your way to the other side. Now this, Andrew, you must understand that the people who are ruling the world, where they are doing some really strange things, where they actually want to kill off all these hundreds of different species. Why? Like your mass murderers. If you want to start killing, you've been taken over by a mold which is designed to destroy. That's the function of mold. Mold is designed to break down and to complete the cycle, what we call the Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva cycle. Mold is Shiva. Shiva is the owner of mold, and Shiva is also the owner of or he's the caretaker. He's very magnanimous to ghosts, as well as the dead, as well as people who committed suicide. It's all tying up. When you start putting these pieces together, you realize what's happening. Now, these people who are taking over the world and just wiping out all these species, these mad scientists today who are putting weird stuff into our vaccinations, weird stuff into our medicines and causing people to die, have been infected. And you have to ask yourself, what rituals, what are they doing in their spare time that they've gone mad? They're mad scientists. You have to ask yourself, so what are these people? Well, they're no longer human. They've lost their humanness. They are now mad. And they just want to, like mold, destroy all living. They want to decompose. They want to break everything down. These are the mad scientists that rule the world. So they've done traditions, and then you have to ask yourself, this devil worship and all this thing. Well, they're touching skulls, they're touching bones, they're doing their rituals in graveyards, in these various grave sites. What's going on, Andrew? So now when you start putting these pieces together, you start realizing it's not so difficult, but we've now got to sort this problem out.
Yeah. We call it mold, but like you say, mold wasn't even discovered until penicillin. Or was that just penicillin when that was discovered? So it can benefit us, or it can really be detrimental to us, can't it? So is there any way to cleanse someone if they've got that far and they've been taken over by that really bad mold? Can you bring someone back, or is that the end?
No. There is ways of sorting them out. Now, this is one of the things that I want to share with. Before I give you the solution, let's just deal with one other aspect. As to once you've got mold, why do some people go mad quicker than others? You have to ask yourself, and what has been worked out? Go and do the research. People can go and do the research for themselves on this. The thing that speeds up the process of mold is electricity. So you'll find in those rooms, those houses, those buildings, whatever, where there's already that mold, once we have electricity in there, it speeds it up by 600 times. It will cause it to grow. So electricity is a charger. So it will actually aggravate, agitate, make it grow. So you'll find that often when these people went mad, they'd give them shock treatment. No, they'd give them shock treatment until they lost their minds. Not shock treatment to try and calm it down. How'd they lose their minds? Because they aggravated and they just pushed it over the top 600 times. So before I deal with the solution, you want to know what's going to worsen your state. You want to know somebody whose personality has changed, somebody who's actually, you're growing up with a child. This child is a very pleasant child. As they get into their teens and they get involved in the wrong people with drugs. I'm not against all drugs. Some drugs are very positive. But when they get involved with the wrong drugs where people are actually doing some weird stuff and people are nearly dead and where do they usually do some of these drugs? Some really dark, shady areas, which you have to question, dark and shady. What's going on there? Point is, when they get involved in some of that, their personality changes. What's happened is they've got mold in them. So one of the easiest and quickest and best solutions is just, first of all, treat them for mold. So back to your question now as to how do you treat somebody with mold? I needed to get that out about electricity to understand that electricity is the key. But it's not electricity to just zap somebody. You're just going to spread it and it's just going to go wild. What you want to do is you want to trap it. Ghostbusters, do you remember? The movie Ghostbusters, what they did is they contained it. They contained those ghosts. So we want some electrical system that will contain those mold spores, those spirits, those demons, whatever you want to call them. We want something that's going to contain it. Now, the thing that contains it is something called a crystalline structure, which comes from lava, volcanoes. So you want
and crystals. Crystals, does that contain that? Is that why people use crystals to warn away spirits and protect them?
Well, you're just pushing them in different directions, but you're not containing them. So crystals, when you've got the wand and it gives off that energy, that spiral, certainly you're pushing it away. But Andrew, if you sweep your dust from one corner of the kitchen to the next corner of the kitchen, you haven't contained it, you just moved it. So the wands are often moving things around, but we're not containing it. Relating to your question, how do we get rid of it? So what crystal, what will actually contain this, get rid of it and take it out? Now we're talking with volcanic lava. So what you're talking is a thing called bentonite clay. Bentonite clay, each little minute crystal has actually got hollows in it, deeper than a golf ball. So like little hollows in it around that crystal. And inside them is an electric charge. That electric charge sucks that mold in and does not allow it to escape. It then contains it, passes through your body, so you're going to eat so you can gather where I'm going. You're going to eat this bentonite clay. It's going to take it out of your system. It's going to suck the mold, contain it, pass it out through the toilet and take it out. Bringing us again, do not go to sewage pits, sewage farms. Avoid them because the stuff is hanging around there. This is why you don't want to get involved in all feces, byproducts, which I was talking about insects earlier, that will actually bite you, and whether the insects that are now inside your blood in your body, their byproducts will contaminate you and drive you insane. So that's the negative mold. So the mold at the sewage farms and then the graveyards. So you use this mold and you need you need to take 5 doses a day for about a week, not even a week, 5 days. Usually does the trick, sometimes a few days. You need 5 doses because of the body. It is so strong, bentonite clay. You want half a teaspoon, you take it. 2 hours later, you take another half a teaspoon. You put in a bit of water because you can't just drink sand. It's like sand. You can't just drink it like that. So what you'll do is you'll dissolve it in a bit of water, dissolve it at a level of words. It's sand. Put in a little bit of water, half a teaspoon in a bit of water, and drink it. 2 hours later, your second dose of half a teaspoon. 2 hours later, you step it up to 1 teaspoon, mixed with a bit of water. Another 2 hours, another 1 teaspoon. And the 5th dose, 2 hours later, another teaspoon. You do that for anywhere between 3 and 5 days, and you will usually take this mold out of you.
Where can you buy these products? Is it available freely?
All over the world. All over the world. Going back to the animals, you say, oh, well, we're putting parasites and we're putting rubbish into us. Have a look at some of these videos of animals. You'll see, particularly monkeys, they go into these warm baths and they will eat some of that clay. Have you seen some of those videos, some of those National Geographic videos? Why are these animals eating this clay? Never mind humans, but animals are eating this clay. Why do you think animals that graze in the field are not so opinionated about eating a bit of grains or sand on them? When it's of the right clay, they will actually eat more of that sand. They will get it in that way, and it's a natural cleanser. So it's very good for pets. It's very good for your farm animals, for any husbandry. You use this to clean out your animals. So don't assume, well, we've cleaned out ourselves, therefore I'm safe. We live with dogs and cats. They've got germs. They've got parasites. They've got spirits. Andrew, why do so many religions tell us to avoid dogs touching us, especially these very religious organizations? They say, don't touch that dog because its saliva will get on you. No, 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 it's not on the saliva. Those dogs love to roll in dead things. Andrew, that thing's got mold that's now been attracted to it, decomposing it, and that dog eats it. And they go, but they got different systems, but some of them, very aggressive dogs. Point is, they are putting that stuff onto us. They are passing that dead spirits, those dead mold onto us. We are infecting ourselves. So first of all, you get rid of it that way. As to the seagull stuff, and whether it's crickets that dogs roll in or something, they also know that certain mold will actually stop further infection of fleas and ticks and lice and what have you. So they roll in it so that puts it over the body to protect the animal, the dog. So they have different functions. People haven't studied it enough conveniently, but some of it is very good for the animal. But the point is, when these dogs go out, they often go into a rubbish and they will scratch the bins open and take dead meat, old meat that's already rotting. I mean, we live here in nature, and animals get killed in the wild. Our dogs will go and take those bones. They've found a fabulous bit of lunch, bring it in and share it everywhere. Andrew, I want a freak, but it's a dog. But the point is, they're bringing us dead stuff with spirits on them. Now we've got to keep ourselves clean. So first of all, deal with the bentonite clay. 2 hours apart. Don't take it more than that. It's too strong. And you need 5 doses a day. Half teaspoon, 1 teaspoon, 1 teaspoon, 1 teaspoon, 1 teaspoon. That's the first thing. So that's a cleanse. The next thing that you need to do, and again, what they call amulets. The old witches and them used to give us amulets to protect us. Andrew, what were they protecting us from? Were they protecting us from accidents? Were they protecting us from bad spirits? Oftentimes it's said from bad spirits, which could possess you, take you over and drive you insane. Now, of these protective amulets, protection amulets, crystals are some of your best. They actually have, because they give off energy. They continually give off an electrical charge. So these amulets, these gemstones, are giving off a charge. So what would happen is it puts a force field around you so that whatever comes to you, it cannot get onto or into you. So this is where the wearing of gemstones came about, to protect us from spirits, demonic possession. You know, they say, what's it going to protect me? It's going to help me make money. Look, gemstones give off energy. You know, if you want to attract it, that's a different story. Attraction is access another level or another dimension through these different types of mold relative to what you want. It will give you access into another world to understand how to do it. You've got the knowledge, you go out and do it. But it does not attract in the way they say. It does not attract money. It causes you to change your mind so you can know how to do it and you attract money. But the stone of itself will not attract money. It repulses, it repels all these chochos, these nasties away. So you have to start asking yourself, which is the best gemstone or crystal you're going to wear? It's something called black tourmaline. Okay, tourmaline, black tourmaline. Tourmaline comes in different colors. Black tourmaline is your strongest. It's got the highest frequency. So black tourmaline will push. It's got the best frequency, the strongest frequency to push everything away from you. So it protects you like that from these different spores.
It was the reptilian hybrid housewife. When I did that interview with her, I was asking her about crystals and stuff, and she mentioned jade and said, if you notice, the Chinese emperors used to carry jade with them all the time. And it said, one of the generals said it was to protect his military plans.
Go to all the science fiction movies and these spaceships that put this force field around us or around their ships. What is in the center of that force field? What thing do they use to activate that force field, Andrew? It's not just a switch that you flip. They've got a stone that actually generates a force field out and protects them. And then the movies conveniently show it's to protect you against missiles, it's to protect you against bombardment, protect you against meteorites and debris in the sky. Think about it. Those meteorites or that asteroid belt, that's asteroids where you often go through asteroid belt. So they put on this force field. Well, think about it, Andrew. Asteroids is some of your oldest stuff in the universe. It's been blown up many, many, many millions of years ago and is hanging about there. What are they actually saying? Those are dead things that have got mold on, and it's protecting them against that, not the physical damage. In the movies, it's told, well, physical damage. Look past it and go beyond what the message is there. So yes, as to jade, to protect your mind, it puts a force field out so that things can't get in or things can't read. You've certainly got those. Black tourmaline is said to make you invisible. Well, I'll tell you what, do I look like I'm invisible? I'm wearing black tourmaline right now. However, what does it make me invisible to? So these creatures who target you also target a certain temperature range. So what happens is tourmaline will also lower your frequency and lower your temperature mildly. But the point is, lowering that, you become invisible to that creature, that mold, that spirit, that demon that wants to get into you, so it can't see you because you're not the right temperature. One of my favorite science fiction movies was, I'm trying to think what it is, with that alien, I can't even think what it was, so long ago. Remember, he could change his camera so he could see the people in different, he put it into the different infrared systems and different light systems so he could read where the humans are, because they figured out he was seeing them through the heat source. And then when you looked at the one where Stallone was in that one series with Predator, what did he cover himself in? He covered himself in clay so that that creature, that spirit, that hoho, whatever you want to call it, couldn't see him. So when you start putting the pieces together, you start realizing, what are we protecting ourselves against? So yeah, you've certainly got these things where we change our frequency.
One thing I've got, Holger, is if it's in all dead things, then that means then all the animals that we eat have contained this, don't they? Because they're all dead. And, or when you cook it, does it kill the mold?
Not all of it. Not all of it. Some of it, yes, but not all of it. Remember, they're different. There are thousands of different species of mold. Thousands. Some can be killed by heat, some cannot. They've done, research has been done. Some of the oldest, or some of the nothing else can survive in a volcano, and yet some creatures live inside a volcano at that temperature of that lava, of that molten that molten rock. There's some creatures that live in there. So these are some of the things, and in some of the coldest areas, some creatures live there. So you've got to start asking yourself, what creatures are they? Then you start realizing they mold. They're some of the oldest species. Going back to that mold, what you're asking about eating. I just want to deal with the audience that you have is quite broad-minded, open-minded. And one of the secrets I tried to give in the last video was, do not limit yourself to one path or one philosophy alone. When you start combining your different philosophies, you'll start getting a whole picture as to how all of this connects. By being so dogmatic and saying, I'm only one religion, or I only follow one path, or I only follow this mystery school, or I only follow this particular secret order, Andrew, we limit ourselves to getting the full picture. Now, let me explain. When you eat, particularly shellfish, we were talking about parasites earlier. Parasites are when something bites us. The other place where this mold is at its highest is in bottom feeders. They contain some of your highest levels or most concentrate levels of mold. And you'll notice of the last how many years eating all this shellfish. Andrew, why do some people develop rash after eating shellfish? Because they're getting some really bad stuff into them. Apart from mercuries, let's not go there, but we're dealing with parasites, and they have contained some of the worst degree or types of mold. So you'll get these people who eat, some philosophies will actually say people who eat fish have dirty thoughts. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I know that Jewish people don't eat shellfish, and it's in their religion not to eat shellfish. But also, why pigs? What is it prevalent in pigs as well?
That contains a different type of, it contains trichinosis. I'm trying to think what that is. That's something else yet again. Okay, these are all different things. So that contains a different type of thing. And again, cooking, heat cannot destroy that. So in the pork, even if you think you can kill it, no, you don't. Apart from that tapeworm and other things that it contains. So it contains, because what does it roll in, Andrew? What's it living in? It's fermented shit. It rolls in that, and we eat the pig. So you are welcoming in spirit possession by the billions by eating this stuff. So if for your own safety, for your own hygiene, it's not a religious thing, it's for your own sanity that we don't eat certain foods. Now, going to this, I want to just elaborate a bit again where I'm trying to tie up going into the different philosophies. Don't limit yourself to one philosophy. An open mind means look at all philosophies, look at all paths, look at all different types of systems that are out there, and start putting the pieces together. And I'd like to put a few pieces together for you. We looking at meat, and I'm like having a bit of a go and a laugh at meat. But let me tell you, where else is mold also existent in? Is in grains. However, it's not that it's in grains permanently. What we don't realize, now we're talking with the moon, going to my favorite subject, astrology. Grains at a certain time of the month have got mold that is allowed to grow, and it's according to the moon. Now, in the Hindu faith, they work on a fast called Ekadasi. Ekadasi means 11. So it has to do with 11 days before, 11 days after the moon. It has to do with that. When you, and it's done in it's said in the religion that that's when illusion, well, think what's illusion, but anyway, that's when illusion is at its highest in those grains, and that's when you will fast from those grains. And in the Hare Krishnas in particular, if anybody's interested in doing this, to fast or abstain twice a month from grains has not just medicinal properties, it also has beautifying properties. Point is, I'm saying, if you're a Christian, don't only look to Christian, look to the Jew, as you've just said, the Jewish faith, look to the Muslim faith, look to the Hindu faith. They've all got different things. Look to the Buddhist faith. They've all got different things that they're doing. Coming back to this grain, twice a month, mold is in grain that the moon basically will take its hands off it or grows it at such a pace that that mold is at its highest. So while I'm knocking meat, it's even in grain, but it's at twice a month. So during those times, twice a month in those in the month, you actually want to avoid grains so that you can avoid this mold infestation. So this is what I'm saying. You look at religion and you realize religion is not just dogmatic madness. It's actually got genuine, legitimate reasons why we do these things. If you want to know what it is, you can't just get a calendar or a time of the Hare Krishnas in particular observe Ekadasi. You can't just take a calendar from anywhere in the world, because it's all done according to the time of the moon. When you start the fast, when you break the fast. So you'll do it for just over a 24-hour period, a little bit more than a 24-hour period. You'll abstain from grains. And that will allow you, yes, my darling, say hello.
Why do they say cats are good for warning away spirits? Is that anything to do with this mold?
Yes. Which is the creature that spread the bubonic plague? Rats. Right, rats. Rats spread the bubonic plague, but how they spread it was through fleas. It wasn't through the rats. The bubonic plague was spread through the black plague. Sorry, not the bubonic plague. Connected, but let's just go. The black plague was spread through dying fleas, not just any flea, but dying fleas. So when a flea was on its last legs and it bit a human, you would end up with the Black Death. But it was carried by the rat. So if you've got something that kills off the rat, called a cat, you're going to be protected. Cats can see ghosts. Cats can see spirits. I just want to say there that with grains, during these 2 times in the month, the iron content in that grain will be at its highest twice a month. Iron, which is what speeds up the oxidization process, is what speeds up wrinkles on people's faces or the aging process. So for people who are interested in beautifying themselves, it would be a good idea to avoid grains during those 2 times a month. So we think that these religious festivals are just fanatical festivals. They've got valid reasons why we're doing them. Number 1, for beauty, and number 2, for protection. Let's look at Ekadasi as in the Hare Krishna faith, where you'll abstain from grains twice a month. So that's 1 day twice a month. So that's 2 days twice a month. That connects up with a Christian faith called Lent, a Christian festival or fast or thing you'll do where you'll do Lent. Now, Lent lasts for 40 days. Now, this 40 is a magic number. Now, Lent Lent means 40th. And Lent is usually observed, it's a specific time, which ends off with spring. Easter Sunday. The point is, during that time when you're doing the 40-day fast, going back to the time of when Jesus was tempted in the wilderness by the devil, Mould, if you look at astrology as to when that 40 days last, when you see that spring is at the beginning of where we present ourselves to the world, we are born, we are now manifest. You've got that watery period, or the 12th house, which is usually jail, which is the dark side, which is like I'm locked away, there's nothing I can do, the abyss, whatever you want to call it. Lent is a fast of 40 days to cover that period. Now, we've tied in the Hare Krishnas, we've tied in Christianity, we've tied in the Jews. Now look at the Muslim faith. The Muslim faith will have where you will already start praying for a person 40 days before they die. Now Lent is 40 days, and Islam worships something that has respect of something that's 40 days. And now we are saying, let's stay away from all the other religions that stick with one. People are narrowing their own understanding of life by limiting themselves to one philosophy. If you start looking at all these different things, as I said, now we're going into Gaia worship or earth worship with the sage. We're going to put sage around. We're going to wear tourmaline. I mean, here's my tourmaline. Okay, I've got it in a cage. This is bloodstone, this one. But here's my tourmaline hanging in here. So it's inside there, the black tourmaline, to protect you. But look at how all the religions are starting to put pieces together. Grains. I mean, stay away from grains twice a month. It will keep you younger. It will keep you looking beautiful for younger. It will also keep excessive iron or rust out of your system, so you don't oxidize as quickly. This is why we want antioxidants, so we don't age as quickly. Well, it's very simple. Avoid grains twice a month at specific times. Very easy. Go to Hare Krishna in your area. These weird people who dance in these bed sheets in the street, making a lot of noise. I belonged to the Hare Krishnas for a good 10 years. Learned a lot about them. Don't limit yourself and say, I don't want to know anybody else. It limits our own understanding of life. So look how many religions we've tied up. And they've all got different approaches, and they're all singing the same tune, just in a different way.
Right now, save $70 on a 2-week food kit with guaranteed 2-day delivery at preparewithOOWK.com. This offer won't last, but here's the good news. My Patriot Supply will. Don't think you can afford to prepare? They have payment plans and options to fit any budget, so don't wait. Get ahead of the chaos today. Prepare with OOWK.com.